important factor, important cause कि हम अगर सतत विकास की, डेवलपमेंट की बात करते हैं without harming our environment, without harming our planet Earth, then that is the main achievement.
And let me tell you again one thing, that BBD group has always worked for sustainable development. May it be a lush green campus that BBD group has. And along with that, in fact, placing the solar panels is also a part of sustainable development.
Exactly, and rainwater harvesting system is also a part of sustainable development, which BBD University campus is supporting.
And it's a great initiative by BBD Group that today we have an expert talk by Padma Shri Dr. Nirupam Bajpai sir.
So I would like to invite on stage for today's lecture our chief guest, Padma Shri Dr. Nirupam Bajpai sir.
But before that, we would love to invite on stage our moderator, ma'am, Dr. Srivastava Jaffrey, ma'am, Associate Professor, School of Humanities, to please come up on the stage for the proceedings. Thank you.
Good afternoon. Reaching the pinnacle of distinction and achieving great success is the echo of dedication, the shadow of relentless efforts, and the quiet work done in silence. It is an absolute privilege and honor for us to welcome a distinguished economist, visionary academician, and globally respected development policy expert. On behalf of Babu Banarasi Das Group of Educational Institutions, I extend our warmest welcome and heartfelt gratitude to Padma Shri Award winner, Honorable Dr. Nirupam Bajpai sir, for gracing this occasion with his presence. Thank you, sir. Honorable Dr. Nirupam Bajpai sir is a senior advisor, Sustainable Development and Director, South Asia Program, Columbia University. Over the last 3 decades, Dr. Bajpai has been working at different US universities. He was a postdoctoral scholar at the Department of Economics, MIT, in 1992 and 1993. He served as the director, South Asia Program at Harvard University from 1995 to 2002. From 2002 to 2007, he was a member of the UN Millennium Project on the Millennium Development Goals, the internationally agreed goals to reduce extreme poverty, disease, and hunger. Between July 2010 and August 2014, Dr. Bajpai served as the founding director of the Columbia Global Center's South Asia. An economist by training, Dr. Bajpai's research interest includes sustainable developments, ICTs, and disruptive technologies, primary health, education, emerging markets, global competitiveness, and macroeconomic policies in developing and developed countries. His work focuses on economic policy reforms in India, China, Sub-Saharan African, and the South and the East Asian regions. Currently, he is associate editor of the journal Asian Economic Papers published by MIT Press, and is also on the editorial board of the journal Economic Change and Restructuring. Dr. Bajpai is considered to be a leading development advisor of his generation. For over 3 decades, he has been studying the challenges of economic development and poverty alleviation. Since October 1999, Dr. Bajpai has had the high honor and privilege of advising 3 successive prime ministers of India. including the current Prime Minister, Honorable Shri Narendra Modi ji, on economic policy, trade reforms, debt management, and sustainable development. Cutting across party lines, he also advised numerous cabinet ministers of Government of India. Dr. Bajpai is a leading Asia specialist for the Asian Economic Panel and the National Bureau of Asia Research. He's the author and co-author of dozens of scholarly articles on a variety of issues relating to economic reforms in the developing countries, and the list goes on. It's a long list. So, your journey is a testament to the transformative power of education. We look forward to learning from your invaluable insights. Welcome to the stage, sir, for your expert talk on the topic, strategies for the great state of Uttar Pradesh to become a $1 trillion economy. So please, enlighten us.
Thank you for that long and generous introduction. And thank you, Sonakshi, the Vice Chancellor, the Pro-Vice Chancellors, and all of you to have invited me here to talk about a very important subject. I must say before I start that I'm no expert on UP economy. I'm only going to give you some pointers on how I think UP should proceed in terms of achieving the goal of becoming a $1 trillion economy. So before I start, I also need to say that I have a long history of, I studied here. I got my master's, my PhD from Lucknow University almost 40 years back. It was a whole different world at that time. But nevertheless, it's always a pleasure to come back here, come back to the city, and come back among students to talk about the great future that not only this state, but India as a whole is going to see in the decades ahead. So what I'm going to do is the following. I'll give you a broad sense of why I think what I think in terms of strategies. I think I would have about a dozen or so points which will go towards the idea of the strategy in terms of where the state government should focus on to attain the goal. And then we will have a Q&A session so that we can have participation from as many of you as possible, and I can answer as many questions as are put to me. So, first order of business, setting the goal. It's a great thing to start with setting a goal which says by X year you will achieve A, B, C, D objectives. It gives you a benchmarking of how one should proceed in terms of different strategies, which sectors to focus on, what kind of policy reform should one be looking at, what kind of public investment should one be looking at. And so it is, I think, for the first time when a goal of this sort at the state level has been set for a few years now. Of course, I think several Indian states have started to think about reaching $1 trillion in terms of the size of the economy, given the fact that the Prime Minister announced the idea of becoming a $5 trillion economy. So in that sense, the idea of setting up a goal is an absolutely welcome one. And I'd like to just give a little background on why we have thought that setting goals for different regions at different points of time are a vital issue to look at. Back in the year 1999, my boss, Professor Jeffrey Sachs, and I had the privilege of interacting with the then Prime Minister Atal Bihari Vajpai, and we suggested to him the idea that he should announce 2 national goals. This was the year 1999, more than a quarter century back. And the 2 goals that we suggested to him were, one, that India will try to attain a doubling of its per capita income during the first decade of the 21st century. So the idea being that in the year, if the per capita income was X, it will become 2X by the year 2010 in real terms, which means minus inflation. And the second goal was that during the same time frame between the year 2000 and 2010, India will try to achieve universal primary literacy. Primary literacy meaning to get every child in a school who's a school-going age child, and that he or she completes grades 1 through 5 in terms of schooling. And the reason why we thought of that goal was that according to government data in the year 2000, half of the country was considered illiterate. This was government data. The definition of literacy was if you could write your name, you were considered literate. With that definition, in the year 2000, according to government data, half the country was illiterate. This was the situation just about 25 years back. And here was the rest of the world, which was moving rapidly towards what we call a knowledge-based economy. So given the fact that we were so much behind, it was necessary that we think about national literacy programs, starting with primary schools. And so most of you would have heard of what is known as the Sarva Shiksha Abhiyan. The Sarva Shiksha Abhiyan was put together as a result of the goal that was recommended to the then Prime Minister and announced during his Independence Day speech on August 15, 2000. Incidentally, August 15 happens to be tomorrow, another landmark year for our country's independence. But since then, a lot has been achieved in the field of primary education as far as schools are concerned, hiring teachers are concerned, and so on, and getting as many children into schools as possible. So I'm saying this because the idea of setting up goals is important. It allows you to think about how to achieve them, what kind of public investment is required in order to get to those goals, and what strategies should one employ to get to those goals. So coming from there to talk about UP's goal of becoming $1 trillion economy. UP is roughly, I think, about $300 billion or so right now, and it has to grow more than threefold in order to get to $1 trillion. This is certainly an ambitious goal, but one I think that is absolutely achievable for a variety of reasons, as long as some critical components are kept in mind, are implemented, are monitored, if mid-course corrections are required, they are done. And in that process, UP should be able to grow at rapid rates in order to become $1 trillion economy. So what I'm going to do is to have list to you about 12 points that I think are important for UP to keep in mind in order to achieve this goal. The first one is the fact that this is an agrarian state concerns agriculture. It is absolutely vital that UP puts together strategies to modernize its agriculture, to invest in R&D, to allow technology tools and platforms to be used to empower farmers, to empower the agriculture extension workers, so that the best of technology is used, the most relevant advisories are given out to the farmers in time as much as possible, and productivity per hectare goes up considerably given where it is right now. So the first order of business, to my mind, without any doubt, is a huge focus on agriculture, its modernization, use of technology, R&D, and so forth. Of course, one other component with agriculture that is vital is the fact that there is an ongoing climate crisis, and there is an impact of the climate crisis on agricultural productivity and agriculture as a whole, given the fact that we have, and we are seeing for several years now, what is called the change in a hydrological cycle. The hydrological cycle essentially is a cycle that, in India's case, permits the arrival of the monsoons during the period that it does, and that feeds into the agricultural sector, because a lot of agricultural land is still not irrigated and it is dependent on monsoon rains. And with the climate crisis, the hydrological cycle gets disturbed. And if it gets disturbed, then you find rains happening during periods when it never used to rain. For example, there are rains now during the months January and February, which was never the case earlier. And so when you have a standing crop ready to be harvested and suddenly you have rains, it affects agricultural output very seriously. And so it's important to keep in mind that the agricultural sector factors in the climate crisis and its implications. So that's the first order of business: agriculture, everything associated with it to modernize it. The second issue along with agriculture, to my mind, is what is called the agro-based industry sector. Because remember, we have a very large population still residing in the rural areas, most of them engaged in agriculture. But there is not so much requirement of manpower in agriculture anymore, given the fact that lots of activities in the sector are being done by mechanization. And so we need to think about a growth strategy that actually creates jobs. And so how do you create jobs? And you need several million jobs here year on year. So agriculture per se will not create those jobs, but agro-based industry can create a large number of jobs for the rural youth in the rural areas. So I'm a firm believer that pushing and doing everything that is required in order to promote agro-based industry is vital for UP going forward. That's number two. Number three is that we have to think about manufacturing. We have to think about manufacturing for several reasons. One, of course, the fact that, of course, that it's important to create jobs. It's value addition. It's something that the state has not in the previous decades focused so much on. But now, of course, with the current government is thinking very seriously about attracting private and foreign investment in various sectors that will create jobs, and manufacturing sector helps add to the GDP going forward. Every manufacturing job, by the way, has a multiplier effect that leads to at least 3 service sector jobs. So it's important that we push manufacturing to the extent possible in the areas that are most conducive for the state to focus on. In the area of the one district, one product scheme, which I am a very strong admirer of, and I think the state has done wonderfully well in the ODOP scheme. What we need to do now, I think, is to give it more visibility outside UP and outside India. because it has tremendous scope. It has the dual advantage of preserving skills locally, and UP has 75 districts. There are so many products that these districts produce, and the ODOP sector can do wonderfully well going forward. So that's, to my mind, the next one. We also have to think about identifying novel areas that will lead to growth in this state that we have not seen in the past. And so I am a firm believer that things like EVs, the solar panels, semiconductor industry, biotechnology, back office operations for firms are all areas where UP can do well. It will, of course, have to face competition along with other states like Tamil Nadu and Karnataka and Andhra and Gujarat and Maharashtra. But there is no reason why UP cannot do well in each one of these, provided we have focused attention from the government. We are creating the necessary policy environment which allows for greater investments, both from the domestic private sector as well as the interested foreign direct investors into promoting new areas in which the state can excel. One other critical aspect that I have always thought we have lacked in India is what I call industry, academia, government linkages. That is something that needs to be pushed much more than what has been the case so far. You have IIT Kanpur, you have IIM Lucknow, you have your university, you have BHU. There are several institutions that can provide a lot of knowledge, skills that can help the industry side, the government side in terms of strategizing or thinking about new solutions for challenging issues. So as much of industry, academia, government linkages can be established, the better it is. I would even strongly suggest that the government think about an arrangement, let us say, with the IITs and the IIMs, where you have bright kids from all over India who could be placed in different departments in the government, let's say for 2 weeks or 3 weeks, whichever is possible given their academic calendars. And these students can come up with very novel and bright ideas when it comes to solutions for a large number of things. So an internship program that the government does with IIT Kanpur or IIM Lucknow or BHU or your students would excel and go a long way in helping thinking through solutions for challenging problems that they face. So that's the next idea. Another aspect in economics that is, there's a lot of evidence to show is the fact that states that have higher degrees of urbanization grow faster. There is empirical evidence to show, and some of our research has shown, that every 10 percentage point higher urbanization rate leads to 1.3% higher GDP growth of that state. So given the fact that there is a strong correlation between these two, it's important that the state thinks about how to help set up new cities, because UP's urbanization rate is still on the lower side, and there is a lot of catching up to do. Tier 2 cities, Tier 3 cities, how to upgrade them. Of course, building cities is an expensive proposition. It is the state. Cleanliness, all kinds of things. Investment in public health.